Welcome back, CSE 121 W1, to our unit on databases, and this is exercise 24B, and this is part 2. We were messing around in the console and working with Python interpreters just a little bit and MySQL interpreters, and you might find that a little confusing, and we're not going to do a lot of it, but I just wanted to give you some experience doing that. But we are going to work with some files now, so we uploaded some files, so let's dig into that and do some MySQL work, and we are going to use W3 Schools SQL. So if you go to W3 Schools, click on SQL, and we'll do some of this in here. We're going to use insert into and some other things, create table, stuff like that we're going to do in our SQL file. So let's go back to our dashboard here, and in some case we might want to open files in separate windows. So I'm going to go to my files over here, and I'm going to go into databases, and we're going to have two files we're going to work with in 24 states. There's actually another folder in here called 24 states. I'm going to open up states.txt. There's a text file. And then I'll go over here and open up files in a new window. So right click and do files, open a new tab. You could do that. And that way you can go over here to databases, to 24 states, and then you can open up working code. So you could have two files open in two separate tabs. So you just open them in a new tab. However you do that. You can use the hamburger menu, or you can do it when you see the files. So text file, SQL file, text file, SQL file. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy things from the text file called states.txt. I'm going to copy this first line here. And I'm just going to go back here, and I'll just put it right here. Just going to keep it there right now. And we're going to create a table. And how do we create a table? Well, let's go to SQL, and let's go to create table in W3 Schools. And let's go down here, and let's just find one and copy it and use it. Here's create table persons. Let's use this. Just copy this code, create table. And we're going to go into our SQL file. So we're going to use an SQL file to create a table. Now, we don't want persons. We're actually going to make a table called states, and we're going to use a capital S for states, the table. Now there's a table inside the database, just so you're not confused. There's a states database, but inside there's a table. There could be multiple tables, but we're going to work with the states table. We'll use a capital S. That's usually what is used for tables and databases that have the same name. So the file name is usually lowercase, but the table usually has a capital S in there. And we're going to have fields in there, like categories. And we're going to use these things down here. We're not going to use person, last name, first name, address, city. We're going to use order ID, and I'm just going to copy these. Copy and put this here. So the first one is going to be order underscore ID, and it's going to be an int. And you could even use int caps. Sometimes that looks better. And that just means it's going to be an integer. Now that's already going to be there, and it's going to be a primary key, and we'll put the primary key after this. You could even do this. Actually, this might be easier. Primary key. You can specify the primary key after it, or you could put it right there. Just don't do this. Don't do a comma. I have another video where I put a comma in here, it creates an error, because the commas go in between each field name. These are actually field names for our tables because there's no data in them yet, but these are going to be the categories. So order ID and then state, copy that, put that here, and then abbreviation, we'll put that over first name, and then year established, I'll copy that and put it over address. And size is going to go here, and I'll paste that, and then I'll put a comma here, and then I'll put pop, and that's going to be an int because it's just going to be a number. Now no comma here because that's the last one, so all the commas separate them. The commas are separators, but no comma here, but there is a comma here, and there's no comma here after int. So order ID, state, abbreviation, year established, size. Now these are the type of fields they are. This is an integer, it's a primary key. This is varchar 255 characters. The abbreviation will only get 2 characters. And year established, that would be, you could put 4, but that would be an int because you may subtract. One way to know when you would use int, if it would ever be a number that you might subtract something, and you might subtract a year by the current year to find how old it is or something. So if there's any math involved, always make it an integer, int. And the size, that's going to be an int. because that'll be some kind of square miles or something. I'm not sure what it is. And then population int. So we have int, varchar. Whenever it's text, that's like a string. Varchar is like a string, and its max is 255. You could make it smaller, but it doesn't matter. Abbreviation is only going to be 2, and int. So we have int, 4 ints, 2 varchars, which are actually like strings, and that's how we create a table. Now, if we created this table, if we save this and we actually run it in our interpreter, it would create a table. But before we do that, let's make the whole database. So I'm actually going to move this up here. And now that you have this is going to create the table. It should look just like this. I'm going to get rid of this. I don't need this anymore. I'm going to go back to here, and I'm going to highlight everything. And you can do Control A or Command A and copy from the text file, and then go back to the working code. And under here where it says insert into, I'm going to paste it here. And it'll be color coded, so it'll look a little different. Now, you can save at any point because it's unsaved. So hit save. Now, we still have to put some code in here. There's something called insert into. That means we're going to insert all this data into our table. So this is the table categories, the fields, and we're going to insert all this data into it. We're going to insert all this data into it. Now, how do we do that? Well, there's something called insert into. Where is it? There's insert into select, and there's also insert into. We're going to use insert into. And it's used to insert new records into a table. So those are records. These are all records, and I have them divided up in the right way. I have them with parentheses, and they have commas, and there's commas after them, and strings actually have quotes, and integers actually are blue. So everything's correct the way we have it up here, and all we have to do is just use the right code. So insert into, let's go down and see what it looks like. Insert into. So it goes insert into, and then it lists all the field names, and then all the values just go after it, and they're separated by semicolons. So I can do this, actually. This will be, we only need to have insert into the table. We're going to do insert into the table, and then list all the different fields that are going to be there, and then the values come after that. Now, we already have the values. Matter of fact, we could go here and put values and hit enter. And let's just look. Values, they should be in parentheses, and they should end in semicolons. Values, parentheses, comma, 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 and then it ends in a semicolon at the end. So that's the way that should work. Now, it's not color-coded right because we didn't do this yet. So we're going to do insert into, and are we doing that right? All caps, insert into, and then we're going to put states in the table. So it's a capital S, states, and then in parentheses are these things. And the last one is pop. And insert into states, and let's make sure we have everything okay. Insert into, parentheses starting, parentheses ending, and then values, parentheses. So I think that's okay. Order, ID, comma, state, comma. I think everything looks okay here. And then what we're going to do is we're going to run this code, and let's just double check it. These are comments, so they're almost like CSS comments. And I think everything looks okay. If not, we'll find out. We'll know. I don't know if this has to be up here on another line. It didn't change color, so I think we're okay. And we're going to run this code to actually create tables and insert into. So it's going to do two things when we run it. So how do we run it? So what we can do, we could go back to this tab and keep our working code open. We don't need this open anymore, but what we could do is go back to databases. Actually, let's go back to dashboard. And we have no consoles open, but we're going to open one up. But let's do it through databases. Let's go to databases, and let's open up this one. This is our states. So we want to open this. This will take us right into the console and open it up. So I'm going to go here, and that'll open up a console for that. Now we're in here for that particular database. And what we're going to do, and we know we're in that because there we are, we're going to create tables first. So let's just go to our SQL code here, and let's run this code. I don't want to copy any of these comments. Let's just copy that code, and let's go to here, and we're going to paste it right here. Control V or Command V, after this prompt, I'm just going to hit enter. And it says query OK, 0 rows affected. Now rows go down. If you might say, well, what does that mean? Well, there's no rows because there's nothing in it yet, but we do have a table. So we have a table with no rows because we only have our fields. These are the top fields. So it looks like that went okay. And now let's insert into that. We'll go back here. Now we'll copy this code. Not the comments, but everything from insert into down to the very bottom semicolon. We'll copy that and we'll go here. And I'm going to paste that here. And right away, I'll just hit enter. And it says 50 rows affected. That sounds good because we have 50 states. That means there's 50 rows in our table right now. And if we want to actually show it, we could go here and select. That would be up near the top. Select. And the way this works is you just select all. We use this asterisk here from the table. Select all from the table basically means you're going to show everything. So we're going to do select, and typically SQL code, this stuff is usually in caps. So select all from. So let me copy that. Select all from. And we're going back into our database in our MySQL interpreter. How do I know I'm in the MySQL interpreter? Because we have this thing down here, MySQL, and it has like that kind of arrow. If we had the 3 arrows, Python has that 3 arrows for their prompt. But I'll go here and I'll paste that. Now I'm not going to hit enter yet. I'm going to put states because that's a table name. And I'll hit enter. And let me paste it again and put the semicolon. I think because I didn't have the semicolon, it didn't let me do it on that second line. It was doing it as a second line. So after this prompt here, let me just paste it and put states and put the semicolon. I haven't done this for a couple semesters. Select all from states, semicolon, and it should be right after the prompt here. There we go. That's what we want. And there's our table. It looks like a table. Order ID, state, abbreviation, year established, size, and population. And we just have a little database here. It's not very big, but we can actually use SQL queries. That's what we did right there. That was an SQL query we just did. You could select all where, you know, the population is greater than something, where order ID, like let's say you want the top 10. You could do an SQL query like select. It's been a while since I did this. Let me do this again. Where, that's what I was going to use, where. That's like a clause. I could select all from customers where something equals something. So let's do that. Okay, it's been a while since I did this. So I could go in here and do, I think if I hit the arrow, it'll do my original one, and then I could backspace, select all from states, and I could put where order ID is less than or equal to 10. How about that? And put a semicolon. So select all from states where order ID is less than or equal to 10. Hopefully that should just print out Delaware through Virginia. And that's what it did. And you could do it by population. You can basically kind of extract any information that you want in here. And we're going to try to do that with Python. So that's kind of our next step. This is SQL queries that we're doing in here. And we're going to try to do that and connect to this database with Python. We could do this for a while. I mean, you could do a lot of stuff in here with SQL queries. There's a lot to learn about SQL queries. All this is queries that you're selecting different things, and if it starts with a certain letter, you can update, you can delete fields, all kinds of things you can do in here. That's not what we're trying to do here. We're just trying to navigate a database a little bit and use Python to connect with it. But anyway, we can get out of here. We can always just exit. I think exit works for the interpreter. Yeah, that closes it. So exit works for Bash and MySQL, but quit with parentheses works for the Python interpreter. So I can go back to dashboard. And that's all you have to do. If you indicated me as your instructor, I should be able to see your files and go in there and see what you did. So I should be able to see that you already created it. I should be able to run queries on your databases, all that kind of stuff. I should be able to go into your database and see, oh, you created this and you have one called your username and states, and that it's populated. I could go into it, run a query on it, and see that you have your table and you have all your data in there. So that's what you're going to have for 24b, and that's part 2 that we just finished. So we're going to continue this probably in 24c using some Python. But for now, that ought to keep you busy or a little bit confused, and we'll talk about it a little bit more. So that's probably new for some of you. Some of you may have used MySQL before, but we'll talk more about it just to understand what's going on here. You know, the difference between SQL, SQL queries, MySQL, all that. A whole new selection of terms we're dealing with here, so it may be a little confusing. Plus, you're in a new IDE, and it's late in the semester. You want to wind down and all that. But anyway, that's 24b part 2. Hope you enjoyed making a database, and we're going to work more with our states database in Python Anywhere.